we believe that this is the beginning of more government censorship of the internet. They're dressing it, they're selling it to the public as protecting kids, which is what they always do when they want to bring in more censorship. They're going to have to say, oh, well, this is me, anonymous. I've never wanted to tell anybody who I am. But here we are, Mr. Government, Mr. E-Safety Commissioner. Here's who I am.
Regular viewers of the Topher project will already be aware that there is a High Court challenge to the e-Karen's under-16 social media ban that is being led by John Ruddick MP, supported by others, of course. Well, we have some news, some updates. Now, unfortunately, court cases by their nature tend to be long and drawn out. It is a multi-stage process, so this is an update to keep you updated as to how things are progressing. John Ruddick MP joins me now. John, thank you so much for making time for the Topher project once again.
Good to see you, Topher.
John, this is something that a lot of people never have to do in their life, thankfully. Dealing with the High Court or even with high-profile, high-pressure court cases wouldn't necessarily be familiar with the process itself. You recently lodged a challenge. It is a constitutional challenge which has to go to the High Court of Australia. Bring us up to speed with what it is that this court case is, what you're hoping to achieve, and what just happened literally only about a half an hour before we're recording this interview.
Some cases get to the High Court. Most cases get to the High Court because it's gone from one court to another court to another court to another court, and they finally appeal to the High Court, and that's the end of the story. Now, when you are contesting whether a federal parliament law is constitutional or not constitutional, that just goes straight to the High Court.
Sorry to interrupt my interview with John Ruddick MP. We'll get back to him very shortly. My name's Topher Field. This is the Topher Project. I am 100% viewer supported. So if you appreciate what I'm doing, keeping you up to date with developing stories like this one, then please head over to topherfield.com. Buy me a coffee via the button that you'll find on the homepage, and check out the shop as well, where you'll find my best-selling books, my multi-award-winning DVD, and all of my t-shirts, hoodies, and yes, now we have caps and even bumper stickers. You asked for them, we have provided them. You'll find all of that there at topherfield.com, and everything you buy is going to help me to keep bringing you stories and interviews like this one. Without further ado, let's get back to John Ruddick MP.
And so that's what this issue is. We believe that the federal governments, the Albanese government, with the support of the Liberals, of course, we believe that their law censoring the internet for middle teenagers is unconstitutional because in the 1990s there were a couple of High Court decisions which said that there is an implied freedom of political communication. And, look, conservatives like you and me generally we like black letter law. But look, the Australian Constitution, the way it is written, very much assumes an informed electorate. They're going to vote for representatives. They need to know what the representatives stand for. They need free political communication. Now, does that extend to 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds? Well, it does, because, Topher, they're going to vote in a lot more federal and state elections than you and I, just because they're young. And you and I would remember what it's like being a teenager. A majority of teenagers are not interested in politics, but a not insignificant minority are. A young Topher Field and a young John Ruddick were interested in politics at a young age. And these kids are going to end up being part of the political process or, just being good citizens and being aware of what's going on. So we do recognise that, social media is massive. It's vast. It's a big part of everyone's life, unless you live in the highlands of New Guinea. So it's vast, and on balance, it's very good. We are talking now, Topher, thanks to the internet.
Correct.
Thank you, internet. Now, being so vast, there are going to be one or two bad things that can happen on there, and parents have become, and schools have become a lot more attuned into how to educate their kids about the dangers of social media. And that's what it's got to be, parental responsibility, not outsourcing it to bureaucrats.
And so you've lodged a High Court challenge to essentially ask the High Court to determine whether this under-16 social media ban actually infringes on that implied right to political communication. Of course, the ban comes in only, now less than a week's time from when we're recording this interview. What can people expect going forward? Is this going to be some sort of a quick one and done, or can we expect a more drawn-out process?
Well, it will be reasonably quick. The time just half an hour ago, the Chief Justice, Stephen Gageler, had agreed at a directions hearing that there'll be a further directions hearing on the 25th of February. That'll be like the final directions hearing. And on that date, the 25th of February next year, not that far away, we'll get a date for a substantive hearing. Now, we don't have the date on that yet, but I'm guessing March, April at the latest. There'll be a substantive hearing. Our barrister will get up and make the case for why it's unconstitutional. The federal Commonwealth, the Commonwealth government's barrister will get up and say why it is constitutional. We'll all put forward our best case. The 7 justices of the High Court will hear and ask questions. Then they typically go away for about a month. They think about it, and then they write a report. Now, they might, sometimes the 7 justices all sign off on one report. Sometimes it's split, 4-3, 5-2. And so we don't know how it's going to go. But if we hope we're going to be successful. Now, if we're not successful, well, it's just I don't think this issue is going to go away. And look, we believe, being paranoid libertarians, Topher, we believe that this is the beginning of more government censorship of the internet. They're dressing it, they're selling it to the public as protecting kids, which is what they always do when they want to bring in more censorship.
Well, this is an interesting thing because obviously based on the timeline that you've outlined here, the under-16 social media ban will come into effect on the 10th of December, and it will be some months into that ban that we will finally get a decision one way or the other from the High Court of Australia as to whether it was even constitutional in the first place. So coming to the practicalities of the ban as we understand them to be, we're getting very, very mixed messages. We've had the government come out and say that a digital ID won't be a requirement. And in fact, the reporting around this has been really poor. I'm hoping you might be able to shed some light on this. Some media outlets, mainstream media outlets have been saying that government ID won't be required. And yet we have the social media companies themselves saying that in the cases of appealing a decision, so they'll run AI to determine if an account is under 16. And if they believe it is, they'll shut it down. Someone can appeal that. And they're saying that a government issued ID will be accepted as a form of ID. But of course, that's different to a digital ID. The whole thing's become a little bit of a mess. I don't think anyone really knows for sure what's going to happen. And that seems a very poor basis for policy going forward. What do you think is likely to unfold here?
So we were all very disappointed with the Liberal Party, the party built on the principle of free speech. If you read what Robert Menzies was saying in the 1940s, he was a free speech warrior. So one positive thing that the Liberals did do when it went through the Senate is they got an amendment in saying that it can't be compulsory to use digital ID. Now, the Labor government wanted that. Okay, so we know what their intentions are. So I think it was the handful of good Liberals and Nationals, Matt Canavan, Senator Antic, others, I'm sure, Pauline Hanson, said, no, we can't insist on it being a digital ID. So this is the big fear, is that, the government, because these tech platforms are facing $50 million fines, okay, so if they don't put steps in place. So, it's a lot of coercion there. So the tech platforms are going to err on the side of being cautious so they don't get the $50 million fine. So there's going to be people who might be 18, okay, or might be 23, who may exhibit online behaviour that resembles that of a 15-year-old. Could easily happen. And so therefore they will be required to cough up some type of ID. Now, you're right, it's vague about what type of ID, a passport, a driver's license. Now, a lot of what a big, massive problem here is anonymous accounts on all social media platforms are a vibrant part of the community. Now, most people, I speak to a lot of people who say, I like X, but I'm an observer. I'm not a poster. I sort of think of X as like the Roman Colosseum. 99% of people are in the stadium watching. Yeah. They're not the 1% in the middle, killing each other. And that's a bit like Twitter, okay? Now, imagine if you run a business, and I think your wife's in business, okay? Now, people who are in business who have strong political views, they're going to be reluctant to have an account in their own name because they might lose some customers if they come out and say, I love Donald Trump, okay? Now, then there'll also be employees who want an anonymous account because they might love Donald Trump, but their boss hates Donald Trump, so they're going to say, well, I'm going to be anonymous. So anonymous accounts are a good thing. Now, what's going to happen now with the anonymous accounts? They're going to have to say, oh, well, this is me anonymous. I've never wanted to tell anybody who I am. But here we are, Mr. Government, Mr. E-Safety Commissioner. Here's who I am. Well, a lot of those anonymous accounts, I suspect, will just say, well, stuff this. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting one. You made the comment that you're of the view that a lot of these tech companies may err on the side of too much caution, removing too many accounts. I have a sneaking suspicion it may go the other way. We did see Google, of course, when YouTube were included. They were originally excluded, then they were included in the definition of a social media company covered by this under-16s ban. Google came forward and said that they would sue if that was the case. Have we heard any more from them? Are we likely to see some of these lawsuits from these American tech giants actually eventuate?
Well, I wish, but I think it's too late. Now, the law passed a year ago. You're right. Google had said on 2 or 3 occasions publicly, indicating fairly clearly that they were considering a High Court challenge on exactly the same basis that we are.
Sure.
And then we're sitting around, I'm a member of the Libertarian Party, defending free speech is in our DNA. So we're sitting around thinking, oh, great, Google's going to look after it. They're going to have the very best barristers in the world, unlimited budgets. Okay, fantastic. But we get to 2 months ago and we're sitting around saying, what the hell's happening with this High Court challenge? And we rang around the legal fraternity. They said, has anyone taken on a brief about this? No. So, okay, well, if no one's going to do it, we'll have to do it. And that's where we're at. This should have been done 6 months ago. That's what should have happened.
Well, I applaud you for taking the lead in this. One of the things that I've heard is that Google would be waiting until after it's actually been implemented. One of the suspicions that I have, and this is pure hypothesis on my part, is that the companies will take what they regard as reasonable steps and wait for the e-safety commissioner to step in and insist that they haven't taken reasonable steps and allow that to then become the basis of the lawsuit, not so much a High Court constitutional challenge, but a challenge around what constitutes a reasonable step under the legislation. One thing's very clear, John, even the very fact that we're having this conversation, the one thing that's very clear is that nothing's clear. This is a very clumsily, poorly worded piece of legislation. If you don't give companies or anyone in any legislation, if you don't give people something clear to aim at, how can you expect them to hit that target?
Well, look, Annika Wells, the Federal Communications Minister, she addressed the press club yesterday and she says, oh, well, it's going to be messy, it's going to be rocky, and we don't know exactly how it's going to unfold. So, yeah. I agree with her on that. It's going to be messy, and there's going to be unintended, unforeseen side effects which we didn't see. Remember a few years ago, Topher, when they said, "Oh, we're all going to have to lock down in our homes for 2 years ago to save us from Ebola." Okay,
I think it was 14 days to flatten the curve. I think was the plan.
That's how they sold it, yes. But then there was all these unintended side effects, which people, I didn't think about that. Oh, well, massive increase in, alcohol consumption and mental depression and, suicidal thoughts, okay? All these bad things that they didn't think about, okay?
Yeah.
It's like when the Americans tried to ban alcohol a century ago, and it was overwhelmingly supported. There was 46 states in America at the time. And to get the Constitution changed, you needed 3/4 of the states to agree. Well, that was easy because every state agreed except for 2. So the Americans thought, yes, look at all these bad things associated with alcohol. And it's pretty easy to put together a case of bad things associated with alcohol, right? Okay. So they ban it. What happens? Oh, surprise, surprise. There's still plenty of alcohol consumption. Just happens to be fueling organised crime and very unhealthy alcohol, and the government's not getting their favourite thing, taxes and revenue. So then they, for the first and last time in history, the American people reversed a constitutional amendment in 1933. Yeah. And because, look, censorship doesn't work, okay? It makes things worse. And we're going to end up with an underground internet here unsupervised by parents. That's what's going to happen.
Well, you stole my final question out of my mouth. Teenagers know more about the internet than most adults do. They certainly like to hang out with each other online and offline. I can't imagine for a moment that they are going to simply sit back, have all of their accounts cancelled and do nothing about it. We just saw Prime Minister Anthony Albanese come out saying that this is about compliance. And I'm sorry, Mr. Albanese, but this is not going to be complied with. There are a lot of people that are going to be highly motivated. And in fact, we're watching parents begin to band together to figure out how they can help their children to work around this, because parents who do know best for their kids often know that their kids have a vibrant social life on social media that helps them to stay connected. This has never been more true than in a post-COVID world where, of course, we locked down our teenagers and early preteens for some years in their homes in the state of Victoria where I lived at the time. And of course, they connected online. This is a crucial part of their social life. And I cannot imagine for a moment that they're going to sit back and allow this to happen without, as you say, seeking out the darker corners of the internet. Do you think that this is something that could be undone done. Let's hypothesize for a moment a worst case scenario with the court case that it's found to be compliant with this implied right to freedom of political communication. Do you think that we could get something as draconian as this under 16 social media ban wound back?
Oh, absolutely. Now there will be, if we lose this, there will be a pretty serious silver lining. It's going to alarm a ton of people out there that the government's coming for internet freedom. That's what's, and best of all, it's these new voters, young kids, are going to say, wow, the government and the censorship, I don't like it. Now, unfortunately, a lot of young kids these days vote for the Greens. Well, they shouldn't be voting for the Greens. They should be voting for the Libertarian Party or a Reformed Liberal Party, whatever. Either way is best. But, the difference between, once you sort of, the older you get, generally speaking, lots of exceptions, but generally speaking, the older you get, the wiser you get because you've been around the block, you've met all types of people. Now, but counterbalancing that is young kids, teenage kids, have very, very sharp, bright, fast minds. Now, they haven't been around the block and they're not good at judging character. This is why they get tricked by people like Al Gore and others, right? But when it comes to tech, they're brilliant at it, okay? I've learned if I'm in a room and I've got an IT problem, I just ask the youngest person in the room, can you help me with this? 2 seconds later, all fixed. Thank you very much. Okay. So they're going to get around the social media ban. They've been talking about it for months. It's the number one conversation in every playground across Australia. Now, they might use VPNs. Then the government might ban the VPN. Then there'll be other rebel apps start up. Then they might ban them. They're going to be playing whack-a-mole. The kids are going to come up with something. So it should be, we just got to get back to they're saying this is about social media harms. I believe it's about bringing in censorship, but let's give the government the benefit of the doubt. They're trying to help kids. This is going to hurt kids. And you mentioned before about Google. Google, thankfully, and Facebook and Snapchat and somebody else came out with a public statement yesterday saying that they do believe they're going to comply with this for now, but they were adamant. They say, look, we know our industry better than anybody, and it's going to be counterproductive. It's going to cause harm. So I'm pleased to see that they are resisting it to some extent.
Well, we're certainly going to have to see how this plays out. I applaud you for taking the stand that you've taken and leading the way with this High Court challenge. I certainly hope that it's successful, and I would certainly love to see some of these American tech giants coming down hard with lawsuits against the e-safety commissioner as well, but only time will tell. John Ruddick MP, thank you so much for joining me on the Topher Project.
Thanks for your interest, Topher.
Thank you for watching that interview with John Ruddick MP. My name's Topher Field. This is the Topher Project, and I am 100% viewer supported. So please help me to keep the Topher Project going so that I can bring you stories and interviews like this one by heading over to topherfield.com. You'll be able to buy me a coffee via the button that you'll find on the homepage, or you can head over to the shop where you'll find my t-shirts, my hoodies, my caps, my stickers, my best-selling books, and my multi-award-winning DVD. And everything you buy is going to help me to keep doing what I do here at the Topher Project. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. The algorithm loves you for it, and so do I. Please like, comment, subscribe, and as always, think free.